We get asked all the time about getting stuck. Players who get stuck in the game, right? They've improved and then they've plateaued, right? They can't find any more improvement and it gets frustrating, right? In this video, I'm going to talk to you about how to improve, what probably is happening to you and how you're going to break out of that. If you're interested in knowing what's going on in your game and how you can really break through and maybe become this player, we can't even see him anymore, this red player, off the charts improvement, in this video, I'm going to give you a very specific tip that'll help you improve that. My name is Tony Roig. I'm a master teaching professional. I'm also a senior pro player, and together with my partner CJ Johnson, we are Pickleball. We are pickleball professionals dedicated to helping you improve your game. So let's talk about this. What's going on in your game, right? So I have these 4 players here. You know, they all started around the same level. You have the orange player, the black player, that'll be you, the purple player, and the red player, right? So everybody kind of started off the same. You all kind of play together in the same groups. Can't even see the red player anymore. They found a solution that really knocked them out of the park. And I'll talk about the red player in a second. Probably what happened and how that red player shot off and they're in another stratosphere up here. Can't even see them anymore. They're playing in a different group. Then you have the purple player and the orange player, right? They may still be in your group, but you're starting to get left behind, right? You're starting to lag behind these 2 players. And what's happened is, you were doing all right. Everybody's doing all right. And then all of a sudden, you just plateaued. So the question is, what happened to you? Why is it that you have plateaued here? So let's focus on you a little bit. And then I'll come back and I'll give you my suggestion on what may be happening with the red player and give you some ideas there. The issue you're dealing with is not uncommon. It is pretty common for pickleball players to plateau. You'll have that, that increase in the chart where you're going to move up. And then all of a sudden you just kind of plateau. You're not sure what's going on. And what happens is you're learning, right? You're replacing the information that you have available to you, but you're not doing something really important. What you're not doing is you are not closing the gap. And the way to think about closing the gap is like this. So this is you as a pickleball player, right? This is, I'll put you over here. This is where you're at right now, okay? So this is your play as a pickleball player. This is where you're at right now, okay? Now, you would like to get to here. This is where you'd like to be, okay? This is your target where you want to be, right? Is up here. So you want to get from here to here. Now, you're watching the videos, you're maybe taking lessons, whatever it is you're doing. You're gaining the knowledge of this player. The problem is you're still playing like this player because what you're not doing is you're not closing that gap. What you're doing is you're basically, instead of working to get from here to here, okay? What you're doing is you're not putting in the work. You're not putting in the work you need to move as a player. What you're doing is this basically is right now is simply like an imaginary thing. So it's kind of like the thing with the bubbles, that come out of here, and then you have like these bubbles up here where this is like your dream person, right? This is your dream player, but you're not doing the work you need to get there, right? And the way to think about it is, one way to think about it in terms of closing that gap is basically, we use our hands to illustrate it, but it looks a little bit like this. So, you're here, right? Or here, this is you, right? And this is where you want to get to, okay? And so what you got to do is you have to get from here, your current play level, to here by closing this gap, if you will. And what happens is this, and let's take a concrete example, right? Let's say right now, let's talk about one shot. Let's talk about your punch volley, okay? Let's say that your punch volley right now, you're hitting punch volleys at a level here. So this is current level punch volley, okay? So you've gotten the information you need, whether it's from a video, an instructor, whatever, to get your punch volley from here up to here, okay? So now you have, this is your punch volley. This is where you're at right now. And this is your target punch volley, right? You're basically your target or your what you're heading to, right? So this is the better punch volley, target, better punch volley is up here, okay? But your punch volley is still here, right? So you got to get the punch volley from here to here if you're going to improve. But here's what happens. Here's what happens to most players. Most players don't close this gap. They don't close the gap. What they do is they have the punch volley here, but then what happens is you get another video, right? Or you get somebody at your club says, hey, you know what you need? You need to learn that roll volley. That's what you need. So now instead of working on your punch volley, right? Now we're going to replace that and we're going to say, okay, cool. I'm done with the punch volley project, even though I never really got started with it. Now I want actually for most players, you don't even have one, right? This shot. So this shot is probably down here. So this is your, forehand, call it let's make it a different shot. Let's make it a forehand drive. You need a drive. You want to learn a drive. You want to learn, that's what all cool kids are doing. They're all hitting the ball hard. So let's learn that shot, even though you don't have a background in tennis or you don't have a background in that kind of sport. Now we're going to spend time doing this shot. Well, we're down here. And in our minds, now we want to get to that shot up here, right? This is this is your forehand drive, which again, for many players, it's non-existent. And you don't need a forehand drive, okay? If you watch our other stuff, you'll know you don't need that. If you want to see about the noise and how to remove noise from your life, I'm going to link to a video up here. You can check that out. But this is the one that you want. So this is like your dream forehand drive, okay? Now, if you'll notice something, before we had a volley here and a volley here, right? So this is the gap you had to close. Now you've picked a shot where the gap is way wider, right? Frankly, not as important of a shot as your punch volleys, right? These are your punch volleys, okay? So this is a distraction shot. You could become much better on this shot in a shorter amount of time with less work, right? And it's a much more important shot. So you have a higher value shot, less work. Instead, you're going to replace it with, a dream forehand drive, right? Or a shot that's really not going to help your game too much. And look at the size of the gap you got to close now, right? But whatever it is that you pick, right? Even if you pick this one, whatever you pick, you got to close the gap. Because if you don't close the gap, right? So if you don't close the gap, this gap stays like this, then what happens is, this is just fantasy up here. This is not how you play. This is how you play. And the way you deal with that is, you close that gap and you close that gap. You find a shot, you close a gap, and you find another shot, close the gap. Closing this gap here, right? If you want to develop a good forehand drive, for instance, and you don't have one, it could take you a year, it could take you 2 years. Depends on how much you work at it. But I will tell you this, if you want to improve your game, say you take your return to serve. Let's say your return to serve is here, okay? This is your return to serve now. And this is a better return of serve, okay? This gap, closing that gap is going to give you a ton of benefit, and it's an easier gap to close. You got to put in the work, you got to close a gap. But what you got to do is you have to do this. You have to take this, right? Your level, right? Instead of being here, move it to here, right? And then keep working at it, and eventually your level now moves to here. And what that does is now you don't play here anymore. Now you play up here, okay? And then you keep closing that gap. What you don't want to do is just, I don't think I can do it justice, but what you want to do is sit in front of your computer all day, right? Sitting down in front of your computer, right? Watching the latest video, because all you're doing there is just replacing the gap, replacing this and this, and this remains the same, this remains the same, this remains the same. You're the same player until you start to close the gap. So if you want to improve, if you want to know how to break out, consider closing that gap more repeatedly. Now let's talk about the player in red, the one that's off the chart, right? I will tell you this, more likely than not, if you have a player who they're gone. They're out of your, they're out of your group right now, they're playing in a different group. Usually what that player did is that player figured out to close the gap and had help doing it. And listen, you don't have to join us in the system if you don't want to, right? We have the Pickleball system. There's other programs out there you can join. You can get a qualified instructor in your area and work with them seriously. But usually when a player breaks out like this, right, when they're gone in a different stratosphere, they're going to see them anymore. Usually what happens is they worked with some sort of a program like the Pickleball system, Have We Are Pickleball, something like that. Because what that kind of a system does is it helps them avoid the noise, right? Remember, check out that video on the noise. But the other thing is it shows you what to put here, right? What you're gonna put here and what you're gonna work to close a gap on. And it keeps you on your path, right? So, you know, it's a helpful way to improve if you wanna go off the charts. But even if you don't, that's okay. What you wanna do though is find the thing that's most relevant to your game and then work on it, close that gap. Don't switch to something else until you've closed that gap and improved your game. Remember, the point is not just to replace this, the point is to get yourself from here to here, and that you do by closing the gap. Now listen, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. That really helps us reach other players. You know, we provide this information to help players just like you who want to improve their games. If you want to know more about pickleball, please join us inside our YouTube channels. Also, go to wearepickleball.com. Make sure you subscribe to our mail list. We send out an email every week to give you some more information and help you continue to improve, closing the gap, and improving your game. Be well, and we'll see you next time.